You're 27, and the night is supposed to be a break. It's the start of spring break. Classes are done. Exams are behind you, for now. You've made it through another stretch of long nights and fluorescent lit lecture halls. Your friends want to celebrate. Your dad wants to take you out for a steak. Your girlfriend is packing for a Florida trip you've been looking forward to for weeks. You're tired. You're grieving your mom, who died just a few weeks ago. But you're trying to move forward, one small normal night at a time. You finish dinner with your dad, say goodnight, and promise you'll talk soon. Then you meet your friend at a campus bar with a goofy name and a bright neon sign. The Ugly Tuna Saloona. You walk up the escalator, into the music and the crowd, and onto the security cameras. They record you going in. They never record you coming out. You're listening to Fear Files, true stories only. Tonight, we're in Columbus, Ohio, standing in front of a second-floor campus bar where, in 2006, a medical student named Brian Shaffer stepped into a building full of cameras, friends, and strangers, and became one of the most enduring missing person mysteries in modern true crime. This is the story of the man who walked into a bar and never left. Content note: this episode involves a real missing person case with no resolution. No remains have been found and there's no confirmed explanation for what happened. Please be respectful in any comments or discussion. If you have credible information about the disappearance of Brian Randall Shaffer, contact law enforcement or your local FBI field office. Do not attempt your own investigation or harassment of anyone connected to the case. Before he became a mystery, Brian was just a person trying to balance grief and ambition. He grew up in Pickerington, Ohio, near Columbus. He graduated high school in 1997 and got his undergrad degree in microbiology from Ohio State University. In 2004, he started medical school at OSU's College of Medicine. Friends say he was smart but laid back, a Pearl Jam fan with a stick figure alive tattoo, and the kind of guy who could talk about exams 1 minute and joke about starting a Jimmy Buffett-style band the next. He loved the idea of warm beaches and easy music, even while grinding through med school. In March 2006, his mom, Renee, died from a bone marrow disorder. It hit him hard. He put on a brave face, but everyone around him knew he was hurting. Still, life was moving. He had a serious girlfriend, Alexis, also a med student. They had a spring break trip to Miami planned, and people close to him suspected he might propose later that year. On March 31, 2006, the Friday before that trip, classes let out for spring break. And that's where the night begins. That evening, Brian's dad, Randy, took him out for a steak to celebrate the end of the quarter. Randy later said Brian looked tired, he'd been studying hard, but he didn't push the issue when Brian mentioned going out with a friend afterward. Around 9 p.m., Brian met his friend William Clint Florence at the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a bar on the second floor of the South Campus Gateway complex on High Street. That area had enough crime that the building was covered in security cameras, something that would matter later. Over the next few hours, the night unfolded like a typical bar hop. Brian and Clint left the Tuna and worked their way through several bars down toward the Arena District, doing shots at each stop. Around 10 p.m., Brian called Alexis, who was home in Toledo visiting family before their upcoming trip. He told her he loved her and was excited for Miami. Shortly after midnight, they ran into a friend of Clint's, Meredith Reed. She gave them a ride back to the Ugly Tuna and joined them for another round. Security footage shows the three of them riding the escalator up to the bar around 1:15 a.m. They're laughing, a little wobbly from the drinks, but nothing looks out of control. Somewhere inside that bar, as the night wore on and last call crept closer, Brian drifted away from Clint and Meredith. And then the cameras pick him up one last time. Just before 2 a.m., Brian appears on camera near the Ugly Tuna's entrance, talking to two women. He's wearing a short-sleeved striped polo shirt, jeans, and tennis shoes. They chat for a minute. He smiles, says goodbye, and turns back toward the bar's entrance. He walks out of the camera's field of view, heading, apparently, back inside. Bar closing time was minutes away. On camera, you can see other people coming and going. Clint and Meredith entering and leaving. Crowds filing out as the bar closes. But you never see Brian again. Not leaving. Not walking down the escalator. Not exiting through the main hallway. It's like the building swallowed him. When the bar closed around 2 a.m., Clint and Meredith waited outside for Brian. They called his phone, looked around, and checked the crowd as people poured out. When he didn't appear, they made an assumption that would haunt everyone later. They figured he'd already left, maybe walked home on his own, and just hadn't told them. Brian lived only a few blocks away on King Avenue. It wasn't crazy to think he'd decided to call it a night. The next day, though, no one heard from him. He didn't answer calls from his dad. He didn't answer Alexis. On Monday morning, he missed his flight to Miami. That was completely out of character. His family reported him missing to Columbus police. Investigators started where most of us would start. They went back to the bar. The South Campus Gateway building had multiple security cameras. One on the escalator. Cameras near the bar entrance. Others in the surrounding hallways. Footage showed Brian, Clint, and Meredith going up the escalator at 1:15 a.m. It showed Brian talking to two women near the bar entrance just before 2 a.m., then apparently turning back toward the bar. It showed Clint and Meredith leaving after closing. What the tapes did not show was any clear footage of Brian leaving through the front entrance or down the escalator with the crowd. Police considered possibilities. He could have put on a hat, bent his head down, and slipped past the cameras in disguise. He could have left through a back service exit used by staff and the band. That exit led to a construction area with its own way out, and the cameras there weren't perfect. One panned, another was manually operated, so he could have slipped past. But here's the thing, if he walked out into the streets around the Ugly Tuna and kept going, no other nearby cameras picked him up either. Police pulled footage from other bars and businesses in the area. There was still no trace. When officers checked Brian's apartment, his car was still parked outside. Inside, everything looked normal, no signs he'd packed and run, no obvious struggle. They searched streets, alleys, and dumpsters around the bar. They searched the Olentangy River and nearby waterways, parts of the city's sewer system, and rooftops and construction zones around the Gateway building. Flyers went up with Brian's photo, his tattoo, and the note about the unique fleck in one of his eyes. The case started getting national attention. At one point, Pearl Jam's Eddie Vedder even mentioned Brian at a concert, asking the crowd for any information that might help. Tips came in from across the country. None of them went anywhere. Alexis kept calling Brian's phone for months. Most of the time, it went straight to voicemail, exactly what you'd expect if a phone was dead or destroyed. Then, one night in September 2006, something strange happened. The phone rang 3 times before cutting to voicemail. For Alexis, that sound was electric. For a moment, it meant the phone might be on. The network might be connecting. Maybe, just maybe, Brian was still out there. The cell provider later said it could have been a glitch in the system. Still, a call that tries to connect usually leaves some kind of trace. A ping from Brian's phone was logged near a cell tower in Hilliard, a suburb northwest of Columbus. That doesn't mean Brian himself was in Hilliard, it just means, for a moment, the phone looked alive somewhere out there. Investigators followed up. Nothing concrete came out of it. And the phone never rang again. Over the years, a handful of main theories have grown around this case. One idea is that Brian did manage to leave the bar, probably through the staff or construction exit, and then fell into construction debris or a hidden shaft, or stumbled into the river or a hiding place where no one has thought to look yet. But extensive searching in and around the Gateway area has never turned up any physical evidence, no clothing, no remains, no phone. Some people, including an attorney for Clint at one point, have leaned into the theory that Brian might still be alive, having walked away from his life after the loss of his mother and the pressure of med school. But if he did, he left without using his credit cards or bank accounts. He never contacted his dad, his brother, or Alexis, not even when his father died in a freak accident in 2008. His brother and Alexis don't buy the idea that he just ran off to start over. They don't think he would have done that to the people he loved. Then there's the possibility of foul play. The location, the crowds, and the late hour all leave room for something darker, an argument gone wrong, a chance encounter with someone violent, or a targeted attack we don't know about. Some have tried to link the case to the controversial smiley face killer theory, an alleged pattern of young men disappearing near water. Authorities, including the FBI, have largely rejected that theory, and Columbus police haven't found evidence tying Brian to any serial killer. There's also been public curiosity, and suspicion, around Clint, one of the last people to see Brian. He cooperated initially, then later refused additional polygraph tests. His lawyer has maintained he has nothing to hide, while Brian's brother and Alexis have said they wish Clint would say more. But as of now, there's no publicly known evidence charging anyone with anything. After Brian vanished, his dad Randy refused to just sit at home and wait. He searched riverbanks with Brian's younger brother, Derek, wearing waders and walking mud-choked water near bridges, just in case a psychic's vague "he's near a bridge" in water prediction had anything to it. He advocated for better protocols for missing adults, pushing for changes in Ohio law. In September 2008, a windstorm rolled through Ohio. Randy was out in his yard clearing debris when a branch broke loose and struck him. He died there, in the yard, with no answers about his son. Someone later signed an online condolence guest book with a message supposedly from Brian in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Police traced it back to a public computer in Ohio. It was a cruel hoax. Even after Randy's death, the case stayed open. In 2021, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation released an age-progressed photo of what Brian might look like in his 40s, hoping someone might recognize him. As of now, there's still nothing solid. No confirmed sightings. No body. No confession. Just a gap in the security footage and a family still living with questions. There are cases where you can sort of see the outline, where there's a dangerous ex, a known stalker, or a major fight. This isn't one of those. Everything about Brian's last day looks like normal life. Dinner with his dad. A flirty phone call with his girlfriend. Bar hopping with friends. There's no clear "this is where it went wrong" moment. Just a set of cameras watching a door that, officially, he never walked back out of. It hits a very specific nerve. If you can disappear from a crowded bar in a monitored building in a big city, in 2006, with cell towers pinging and cameras rolling, how safe is anybody from just slipping through the cracks? It's not a ghost story. It's worse. It's a story about a real person we still can't account for, in a world that likes to pretend everything is traceable. If you're listening to this while you're out, walking between bars, waiting for a ride, or closing down a place with friends, there are a few things Brian's story can teach us. Stick to a buddy system, especially when alcohol and late hours are involved. Make a habit of sharing your real-time location with a trusted person when you're out at night. If a friend disappears from the group, don't just assume they probably went home if you can't reach them. If someone you care about goes missing under weird circumstances, push for action early. Don't let "they're an adult, they're allowed to be missing" be the only answer. And maybe the biggest thing, when you see a missing person flyer, remember there's a whole life behind that photo. Not a headline. Not a mystery to consume. A human being with people waiting on them. You've been listening to Fear Files, True Stories Only. This case is still open. If you have legitimate information about the disappearance of Brian Randall Shaffer, contact the Columbus Division of Police or your local law enforcement agency.